Not all power lies on the surface, just as not all decisions are made where they are officially supposed to be made. In Brazil, there are invisible forces operating behind the scenes, shaping decisions and influencing the direction of a nation without most of the population even noticing.
You have no idea, no patriotism. You're always after some interest that isn't justice. Minister, you are a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing, a disgrace. It's embarrassing.
That's really ugly. And this is the federal Supreme Court?
President?
I have the floor. I have the floor and I'll continue. President, please.
This phenomenon, known as the deep state, is not limited to public figures or political parties, but manifests itself in permanent structures, entrenched in the bureaucracy and in strategic sectors. The article published by the Defesa.net portal brought this topic to light, showing how Brazil lives with this hidden power that spans governments and survives electoral changes. In this special video from Vida no Quartel, you will get to know this hidden power in an in-depth analytical way. Welcome to Vida no Quartel.
The president has little power and doesn't really run the country. That's both good and bad. Bad because we'll never be like Switzerland. Good because we'll never be like Venezuela. Brazil has around 6 lifetime officials in Brasilia in agencies like ECU, CGU, and STF. They don't need your vote and will still be there in 20 years. They're not the only ones running the country. People think they're going to solve something by choosing X, Y, or Z, when in reality this X, Y, or Z has very little room to maneuver.
To get an idea of the scale of the so-called deep state, which operates in the shadows, a federal police investigation identified no less than 21 congressional budget amendments orchestrated by former federal deputy Eduardo Cunha, destined for the state of Minas Gerais. Even though Cunha had no historical or electoral ties with the state of Minas.
He says the following, that Dino ordered the blocking of 6.1 million in assets belonging to Eduardo Cunha. According to the federal police, the former congressman steered at least 29 parliamentary amendments even without holding office.
According to the investigators, Cunha maintained constant contact with Mariangela Fialek, known as Tuca, an employee of the Chamber of Deputies, who coordinated the entire operation in his favor. The case is emblematic because it shows that despite having his mandate revoked and being arrested in 2016, Eduardo Cunha continues to exert significant influence over the allocation of public funds, acting as a private actor with more political power than many current members of parliament.
The former president of the chamber, former Congressman Eduardo Cunha, stripped of his seat, is imprisoned in Curitiba by order of Judge Sergio Moro due to the risk of obstruction of justice and witness intimidation.
The federal police operation this afternoon in Brasilia heightened political tension.
In light of the irregularities pointed out by the federal police, the federal Supreme Court ordered the freezing of 6 million reais belonging to Cunha and nearly 120 million linked to Valdemar Costa Neto. This episode shows that even without holding office, powerful politicians are able to operate through public servants who work behind the scenes, reinforcing the idea that there is a hidden power structure capable of manipulating decisions and resources out of public view. The article published by the Defesa.net portal pointed out that the phenomenon known in the United States as the deep state is not limited to the American context. This form of underground power, which operates behind the scenes and influences decisions without directly relying on electoral legitimacy, has already been identified in several countries. In Brazil, its manifestation is particularly intense, revealing how hidden and permanent structures are able to outlast governments and shape the course of national politics. The Brazilian state is heavy, expensive, and fragmented, which enables groups entrenched in the shadows to operate. These groups stay entrenched in office and in key roles, creating a kind of parallel government that does not depend on the ballot box. This realization reveals that the problem is structural, not just circumstantial. Military decisions are also not immune to the influence of the underground state. When diffuse and shady interests infiltrate behind the scenes of national defense, both at home and abroad, the result can be the weakening of the country's sovereignty and response capability, and the blocking of 4 billion and
300 million reais in the defense ministry's budget led the Brazilian army to suspend monitoring operations on the country's borders. About 1.5 billion reais were allocated to the army and funded actions to combat organized crime in border regions. The suspension of operations comes at the same time that the United States classified the PCC and the Comando Vermelho as terrorist organizations.
Processes that should be swift, such as combating organized crime or securing the borders, end up being weakened by intentional bureaucratic delays, created to serve the specific agendas of hidden groups. This silent manipulation undermines the efficiency of the armed forces and security institutions, turning strategic decisions into instruments of political bargaining. The underground state, by acting this way, shows that its influence goes beyond traditional politics, reaching even vital areas where
From Botox to gold crowns, there are no limits to politicians' spending, nor to the shamelessness of their excellencies. The Senate's health plan is by itself a litany of outrages, absurd in every way. It's lifelong, it's unlimited, it extends to relatives and dependents, cats, dogs, parrots. There's no oversight, no medical examination, and it doesn't require any contribution or anything in return. And the worst part is, it's funded with public money. In other words, the bill
is made up of groups that control specific areas of public administration and often consider themselves above the popular vote. These groups can be made up of career civil servants, specialized technicians, or even business sectors that infiltrate the system. Their strength lies in their permanence and their ability to influence decisions without having to appear. This invisibility is precisely what ensures their effectiveness, and at the same time, the danger they pose. In its legitimate form, it should be the guardian of institutional stability. However, when it starts serving its own interests, it becomes a threat to democracy. It feeds on this distortion, creating a parallel power network that dictates public policies, controls budgets, and influences strategic decisions. It's at this point that the concept becomes concerning, because popular sovereignty is replaced by hidden interests. The presence of the state in Brazil can be noticed during times of crisis. When governments try to implement deep changes, they encounter silent but effective resistance within the public administration itself.
Justice Joaquim Barbosa said that the issue had not been debated enough.
I think the second case proves your thesis is very accurate.
Yes.
But your thesis, it should have been laid out clearly. We should be discussing who inserted it.
It was clearly explained. I don't hide information. Your Honor, please respect me. Your Honor, please respect me. It was laid out clearly. No.
Nobody discussed the law in question.
It was clearly discussed.
It was not discussed.
And he brought reason. Your Honor, perhaps you were absent. By the way,
I'm not.
in fact, you hadn't voted. You missed the session. You're in no position to lecture anyone.
And neither are you. Show me some respect. You're in no position whatsoever. You're destroying justice in this country. And now you come to lecture me about morality. Go out on the street, Minister Gilmar. Go out on the street.
Minister Joaquim, we've already moved past this discussion when I asked to review the case.
Your Excellency are in no position at all. You are in no position whatsoever.
Minister, I'm out on the street. Minister Joaquim.
You're not out on the street. You're in the media, destroying the credibility of Brazil's judiciary. That's it.
Well, Minister Joaquim.
Even to discuss.
Your Excellency isn't speaking to your Mato Grosso henchman, Minister Gilmar. Show some respect.
This resistance can manifest itself in delays, boycotts, legal interpretations, or even in the manipulation of information. Information. The result is the continuation of the current situation in the country, where people who wake up early and pay high taxes can't see any improvement in their daily lives, even though they're crying out for help. To understand the depth of the deep state, it's also necessary to observe the contrast between the lives of politicians and the reality of the population. While millions of Brazilians struggle to access healthcare, education, and security, politicians live in true luxury.
It's nice, isn't it? We see how they help each other, right? When it comes to looking after their own wallets, the branches of government stop fighting, and then they manage to maintain that so-called harmonious relationship that's in the Constitution. Judges are among the highest paid in the public sector and have lots of perks, like the unmatched 2 months of vacation per year. And even so, Congress looks after them at this difficult time for public finances. And in this way, the national judiciary has become the most expensive in the world. It costs 1.6% of the GDP. 5 times more than more advanced countries. What do you think about that?
Armored cars, official apartments, corporate credit cards, personal security, clothing allowances, and even iPhone allowances are just some of the perks paid for by the people's hard work. And paradoxically, these same people still have to hear that the state is broke and that the public budget is inflated, justifying cuts in essential areas.
And we keep talking about the economy because the government has blocked 332 million reais in funds for basic education, literacy, school transportation, and scholarships.
The official line is austerity, but there are never any cuts to the perks of those who should be holding public office as a voluntary service, receiving the bare minimum to live without privileges. The contradiction is obvious. Millions of citizens give out of their own income to help people in need without receiving anything in return, while elected representatives enjoy luxuries paid for with public funds. Another relevant aspect is the ability of the deep state to infiltrate different spheres of society. It is not limited to state bureaucracy, but connects with business sectors, academia, and even international organizations, expanding its network of influence. This coordination makes it even more difficult to identify its actions, as power is diluted across multiple levels and camouflaged within legitimate structures. However, despite the diversity of actors involved, the objectives converge toward interests that are rarely transparent. This invisible network, combined with political privileges, creates a system that perpetuates privileges and blocks structural changes. The result is a country where hidden power dictates the course, while the population bears the costs and remains on the sidelines of decisions that should be made for their benefit. It is important to emphasize that we should not confuse this parallel power with public servants who perform their duties with dignity and responsibility. These public servants are essential for the functioning of the state, and ensure that basic services reach the population, often facing adverse conditions and lack of resources, as is the case with teachers working in rural areas, for example. They are far from determining the direction of the nation, like some powerful individuals who act as a true parallel power. While the underground state manipulates decisions and resources for its own benefit, the dedicated public servants fulfill their mission to serve the people, showing that government can empower citizens and not just of hidden interests.
Are you left-wing or right-wing? Right now, neither side. Why? Because politicians only bring us disappointment, you know? I'm telling you this as a citizen trying to fight for my rights, trying to fight for justice. I've paid taxes my whole life. I'm 64 years old. I can't retire. Politicians retire after every term. Full salary, cumulative, multiple pensions. I can't get even one. There's a backlog at Social Security, 5 million retirees who were blocked in these retirement processes. And I say this, politics, what for? It only serves to make us fund this machine of corruption, this machine of astronomical salaries, man. Can you believe today that someone makes $1 million a month?
That's the logic of our state. We pay for the politicians' VIP healthcare, and in return, they leave us with the SUS public healthcare system. In other words, for the king's friends, luxury. For the people, taxes.
The underground state is a reality that challenges the transparency and legitimacy of politics. Recognizing its existence is the first step to confronting it. Brazil needs to openly debate this topic so that society understands that not all power is on the surface. Only then will it be possible to strengthen democracy and ensure that the direction of the nation is defined by the will of the people, and not by invisible forces that operate in the shadows. Maintaining an inefficient state, which feeds back into a system that benefits the political and judicial elite at the expense of the people's hard work. Leave a comment below if you have ever faced any strange bureaucracy when dealing with public services and how it all happened. Don't forget to follow Vida No Cuartel on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, where we post several short videos every day to promote intelligent debate. In addition, Vida No Cuartel is also on Telegram with a discussion group and an exclusive channel where we share various products on sale. All the links will be in the description and in the pinned comment. Here at Vida No Cuartel, you stay up to date with everything happening in the military world. Leave a like, subscribe, and watch one of the videos that's appearing on your screen. Onward, fighters! See you next time.